The coaches are back recruiting again because, recruiting, it never stops.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. We'll tell you about Monarch Money in just a little bit. Thank you, everydayers, for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen every single day. You guys are the best. Jimmy, the coaches are back on the road again recruiting, because if you're not out recruiting, you're being out recruited. That should be
that. That's a shirt. That's a shirt right there.
$1 million idea for somebody out there. Just kick in a little bit to hear it Locked On Bama. One guy they're visiting is Samuel Utu.
Yeah.
I remember there was an old producer or producing company called Ubu, sit, Ubu, sit. Remember that? Good Dog. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
The end of a lot of good sitcoms.
End of TV shows, yep.
Yeah, but here is Utu right here in the middle, apparently, because I know the other one's Kalen DeBoer.
That's Coach Cap.
And Coach Cap. Yep. So that has to be Utu. So
yeah, that's a weird picture of him. Guy, he looks like he's 48 years old there. But I've seen other.
I thought he looked like Lamont Russell's older brother. Is he not?
Really? Well, I don't think that. I see what you're talking about. Lamont Russell's not Samoan, but yeah. I can see what you're talking. I can see what you're talking about. I see.
Get me in trouble.
I can see what you're talking about.
The face, they look kind of alike.
Is also substantially larger than Lamont. But I get it. And you've met Lamont. And one thing is, I've never met Lamont Russell in person. He was on the team when I was in school. But I remember not too long ago. When I say not too long ago, it's probably 10 years now. You bumped into Lamont in an airport or something, right?
Well, number one, it was about 10 weeks ago. I met him in the airport. Number two, he was on a basketball team with me for a couple of years.
So you knew him. Okay.
And good basketball player.
Hey, if you know him and you say, hey, he looks like Lamont Russell, then we ought to go with you.
I'm not like I would get him confused, but I'm just saying kind of looked like him. Anyway. Yeah, I thought it was a funny joke that you have turned into a 5-minute thing.
I doubt that helps us in the recruitment. The weird thing is in other pictures of Sam Utu, he doesn't necessarily look much older. To me, he just looks like a much older person than a high school junior there. But I've seen him in other pictures where he looks,
even 18. The shirt looks like the shirt of 35-year-old.
Very mature.
Yeah,
very mature.
I'm not saying like polos are this crazy thing. I'm just saying normally when you see coaches with high school kids, they're wearing like football garb, not necessarily pads or anything, but maybe just
I like DeBoer's robe, and since we've famously commented on what DeBoer wears, I like DeBoer's Roback.
That was nice.
There, that was a good.
He stepped his game up. We got to give him credit. If we're going to kill him when he looks pretty disheveled, we got to give him a thumbs up and a pat on the back when he looks pretty good. He's and again.
We're also analysts and predictors. We do a lot of predicting. So here's the prediction. I'm going to credit Nicole DeBoer with some of this. I'm going to credit Nicole. I'm guessing. That's a guess, but I'm guessing.
Right. So tell us about Samuel Utu.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that guy. Really good player. Here's what's interesting about him. I love this stuff as a guy that's really into rankings, but at the same time, I don't take rankings like there's some sort of gospel science. I guess gospel and science don't really go together, but you know what I mean. I think that whenever there's a wide discrepancy in the rankings, it can mean several different things. It's not always the same thing every time, but I believe on ESPN and Rivals rank Utu way up there. I think ESPN has
it's like 24/7 in ESPN.
24/7 ESPN. Okay, ESPN has him like number 78 or like top 80 player, and 24/7 has him just barely outside the top 100, I think. So this is an elite kid. Yet On3 and Rivals don't even have him in the top 300 or 250, at all. So that can mean a couple things. It can mean some people immediately look at that and go, well, they don't think much of him at all. No, well, actually, it may mean that he hasn't been what I call worked up. They haven't done the work on him yet. There's just an absolute metric ton of players to get to. These are fairly small staffs that do all these rankings. They may not have gotten to him yet to do the full workup, or may not have seen him in person yet. Some hold off on ranking kids too high until they've seen them in person. So you can't just assume that they've looked at him and don't think much of him. That might not be the case. But I'm always fascinated when there is a discrepancy in the two. But the way I look at it is, hey, I mean, ESPN has obviously done the work, or they wouldn't have him where they have him. And Luganbill and those guys that do the work over there, if they're that high on him, I think it's fair to call this kid an elite prospect, because ESPN has worked him up, and those guys are, they're pros. They know what they're doing over there, and I think it's fair to call him elite. But it is early. It'll be interesting to see where he falls ultimately in the On3 industry ranking, which is a combination of all of the services rankings. But he's a guard. Alabama would like to sign one more guard. He loves Alabama. I mean, this kid, he can go to a lot of big schools. He clearly loves Alabama. I like how he mentioned in his interview that's over there on BOL. He specifically mentioned in an interview with Blake Byler at BOL that he wants to meet the team chaplain at Alabama. I'm always, wow, what that's not always a quote you see from kids in the recruiting process. And hey, they where he ate per Byler's column, they ate at the Cheesecake Factory when Coach Cap and Courtney Morgan went all the way out there, out west, to spend time with Sam Utu. They went to the Cheesecake Factory, and I've never eaten in one. You travel all over. Well, you travel all over. There's no Cheesecake Factory.
There's one at the Summit. I mean, I don't say.
Is there one Is there one at the Summit?
Yes.
I didn't even know that. Okay, I'm gonna make it. Is it good?
Yeah. Check out the Sopranos DVD while you're on the way up there.
Can I walk into a Cheesecake Factory and say, give me your biggest cheesecake and a TV? I want to watch The Godfather and the entire Sopranos series.
I'm going to binge Sopranos
while I'm here eating.
Y'all can lock me in here and come get me in the morning.
I like cheesecake, to be honest. As a matter of fact, I freaking love cheesecake, actually.
Cheesecake Factory, their menu is a little, unless it's been a minute since I've been there. I mean, it's sort of like saying you've never been to Ruby Tuesdays. I don't go to Ruby Tuesdays anymore, but I've been there.
So I'm making it into a thing when maybe it's not a thing.
Yeah, you should go.
I know it's a chain.
Their menu is a Webster's dictionary. I mean, it's just like page after page after page. And you're like, I just wanted some cheesecake. I didn't need a Philly cheesesteak dipped in Thai dressing.
And I am that guy. I'm going to order a cheesecake there. But when you go to Waffle House, you order a waffle. Go to IHOP, you order pancakes. I mean, that it says it right there on the front of the building.
So Utu, who loves the Cheesecake Factory, apparently. He took his first.
He's 295 pounds.
He took his first official visit to Washington. Then he's going to SMU. Then he's going to Bama June 6th through 8th, and then to USC and to Texas. So what I think when I see a grouping of Washington, SMU, USC, and Texas, I think the optimist will say, man, what a group. And the pessimist will say, oh, God, what are SMU and Washington in there? And I would say, from an optimistic point of view, Washington and SMU have been to the playoffs as much as we have the last 2 years, by the way, don't you?
And there's also some NIL payers on that list.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of schools that are.
By the way, there was a great, I say great, it's really kind of sad in a way, but there's a YouTube video that it was circulated, and it was all about like how much money the kids at SMU have. But there was just somebody going around interviewing the kids at SMU, and they'd all go, yeah, my dad, he's on private yacht number 6 right now. He should be on private yacht number 8 later this week. Or one kid just said,
These are just students at SMU, not football players.
They're like, my family name is whatever. And he said, Google it. You'll see how much we're worth. And so what I'm saying is SMU is going to be a player in the NIL field. For those who don't
they
know,
already are.
SMU people are loaded.
Yeah, really all the Texas schools are well situated for that. Texas Tech, even with their West Texas landman money, and SMU, all schools that have and it's not just the rich alumni base. They have to be rich alumni that are driven. Like, I'll give you an example, and this could be way off. Some Auburn people this could be like Tim Cook at Auburn is no telling what he's worth. I don't think he's extremely sports driven. I don't think Tim Cook is like, what do you need for NIL? Here's the check, because he can pay for it all.
I've seen him at games. He looks rather uncomfortable. He looks the way people look who don't like sports, but have been invited to a sports event, and they're like looking around like, what? I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to be excited about.
Right.
I have more money than everybody in this stadium.
Yeah, so you have to be not only have the rich alumni base or have some alums that are worth a lot of money. They have to care a lot about football to write those checks. And not, believe it or not, we live in this different world than all them. Everybody listening to the show lives in a different world than all them, because everybody listening to the show is really into football, right? But not everyone is, and particularly when it comes to check writing. So I think SMU is probably a good combination of a lot of rich alums, and a lot of them are really into football. It's Texas.
And the other thing I'd say about that, you could be like the Michigan booster, who's worth like $260 billion, who married someone apparently a Michigan alum who loves Michigan and loves Michigan sports, and she has talked him into spending some money. At least that's the rumor, and that makes some sense. Like, all right, how many billions do I have to give to Michigan so that you quit bugging me about this? That'd be a good.
Wonder if Belichick's got to figure Belichick's girlfriend's on the phone with her getting tips.
That woman needs help.
We're not talking about that.
No, it's just very interesting, very strange dynamic there. I listened to a whole thing about it coming into work today. But anyway, Monarch Money. Bill Belichick may need Monarch Money before all this is over. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. And that's what it's all about. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word. And if you use that code, you'll get half off your first year at monarchmoney.com. That should be their tagline. When you're 73, if you want a 24-year-old girlfriend, you better start using our budgeting app.
Frankly, it's good advice. It's good advice.
So we're just going to throw in a couple of basketball things. There's nothing. I mean, Darian Reed committed to Oklahoma. I think I mentioned that yesterday. LeBaron Feinlein, still an opportunity to come back. Cedric Coward committed to Duke. So, I mean, there's still some basketball things in flux. And to be quite frank with you, I consider every day that any portal is open in basketball to be a day of flux. So don't worry.
There are players in the portal, and people, you can't enter the portal, but there still are players in the portal that I'm sure Alabama's evaluating. But here's another thing that people need. You can have up to 13 players, but you don't have to have 13 players. You can have 12 players. You can have 11 players. As a matter of fact, when you consider who all Alabama redshirted a year ago, they redshirted Nas Cunningham. They redshirted Houston Mallet. They redshirted, and Latrell Wrightsell was out for the year. Alabama played with 9 or 10 guys last year and obviously did pretty well. So don't think, gosh, there's 3 spots left and you can't get to sleep at night because there's 3 spots left. Alabama might sign one more guy and be fine with going into the season with 11, as long as they most of them stay healthy and able to play. There would be absolutely no problem with that. As a matter of fact, it's easier to give everyone minutes when you don't have 13. And Alabama doesn't recruit a lot of dead wood. They all want minutes.
Alabama visiting Elijah Golden, one of the top defensive linemen in the country out of Florida that Alabama loves. He seems to love Alabama.
I would include him on a projected signing list.
Yeah, that's the other thing is I put up there who will pop next, and I think Golden's a candidate. I also think E.J. Crowell's a candidate because he moved his announcement date way up, but we'll stick with Golden because that's who they're on the road visiting this week.
My answer to the question is like if someone says who's going to commit next. First of all, let's pat ourselves on the back. Last time we discussed this, we said Kamari and Johnson, and we were right. I mean, and not. And by the way, that wasn't on other websites or anything. That was literally reading the tea leaves, knowing the situation, guess from me and Luke, and that ended up being right. So now that we're on a roll, let's be right again. And I would project E.J. Crowell to be the next. Now, is there a date? Do I know this is going to happen? No. This is a guess based on who I think is ultimately going to sign with Alabama in this class and when they might commit. So I would go with him. Now, I would bet the field if you're like, are you saying it's Crowell? I was like, no, bet the field. Don't bet that. But if I had to pick a name, who's going to be in this Alabama class? Who's going to go next? Today, I would say E.J. Crowell, and I'd feel pretty good about that because I certainly do feel like he's ultimately going to pick Alabama. And what a day that will be. There will be some celebration here as we morph into an E.J. Crowell podcast. That's what we'll be.
That is, we could switch right over. We could fall right from Ryan Williams into Crowell, and
we'll ask our locked on bosses how they feel about changing the name.
I've learned it's much better to ask for forgiveness than permission, so we'll probably roll with that. Alabama also visiting.
They would love that.
Or has been. Yeah, they love that. They love it when I say that that's what we're going to do. Brandon Arrington, Mark Bowman, the number 2 tight end, who's going to be visiting Tuscaloosa on May 30th.
These are possible guys, but I love Bowman.
I love Mark Bowman.
My gosh.
I like everything about him. I just think he's built.
I compare him to Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know, comparing your neighbor to Jennifer Aniston.
Okay, there you go. I was like,
it would be saying quite a bit. It'd be saying quite a bit. This woman that lives in our neighborhood looks like Jennifer Aniston. People would be like, what? That's a big thing.
Didn't they do that on The Office one time when Pam was trying to set up Michael with somebody and she set him up with her landlady or something, and the lady just wasn't very attractive and Michael was so mad about it?
That one doesn't leap. I've seen 90% of The Offices, but I probably have not seen every episode.
But now there's a teammate of Mark Bowman, Caden Dixon Wyatt. That's another wide receiver because we're recruiting 1,000 wide receivers and 1,000 defensive backs and 1,000 tight ends. I think that's all we recruit now. But Caden Dixon Wyatt is a guy that I like. Look, if he were to get on board, I'm all for it. But, I'm anxiously awaiting July 2nd, which is supposedly Sadarian Morgan's commitment date. That's supposedly when he's going to do it.
And I think they'll probably only want 2 receivers. I mean, I don't. This is not going to be a big receiver class. This is going to be maybe. And why? Because they like every receiver on the roster. They don't want anyone to cycle out or leave. I mean, they like this group, so they don't feel like they got to add a lot because they don't want to lose a lot here. Yeah. So, and by the way, that kid has an official visit. The thing that stands out to me as soon as I hear Caden Dixon Wyatt's name, and he's a modern day wide receiver, and all I got to hear is modern day, and I'm like, you're offered, because that's how it works at Alabama. It's working out pretty well if that's your strategy at Alabama. That kid has an official visit plan and is the only kid that has a visit plan for that weekend. So I'm sure they're going to work to try to move that because, it's just so much easier when you have several kids making an official visit at once because you really roll out the red carpet for that stuff. And it's not just cost efficient, but it just easier on everybody if you got, 4 or 5 kids or more in and not just one. But that's, it'll be interesting to see if his official visit gets moved to another weekend because of right now he's like the only guy that particular weekend. It looks like Alabama's going to do 6 weekends of official visits coming up this summer. They will happen in May and June, and that's going to be when all the hay is made, and that's why expect July to be a huge month as far as commitments go for Alabama.
We talked a couple of podcasts ago about Booby Feaster. Alabama's seemingly back in on him pretty big.
Yeah.
I love Sadarian Morgan from right here in Alex City. Tristan Key, certainly not out of the question, even though he's committed to LSU. What I just found interesting, I just looked this up on 3. Alabama's offered 28 receivers. Now, before you tell me all the ways that they aren't really offered, let me tell you, I know this, that some of them, like Chris Henry Jr., Alabama's not really in on him. They're not really in on him. He's going to Ohio State. He's already committed there, and he's probably going to stick it out. So I'm not really considering him. So that takes it down to 27. Then there are other guys on this list. Like if I scroll all the way down because they're ranked appropriately and accordingly, then if I scroll all the way down to Prince Gene from Valdosta, Georgia, a 6', 170 guy that is, apparently projected to go to Mississippi State. I'm feeling like, okay, Alabama may have offered him, but is it an offer? Do you like me or do you like me? And that's what that is. Jonah Winston, Jameis's brother. Isn't that right? He's Jameis's brother, right?
I believe that's right.
Yeah. He's at Hoover, and he's 5'10", 153. He's projected to go to Florida State. My bet is it doesn't come to him for Alabama. Yeah. That's my bet. So, you can probably take out 10 to 15 of these guys that Alabama's offered and said, okay, they're not getting them. And not that they're not getting them, that it may be a combo of they're not getting them like Chris Henry Jr., and they're not really going to get that far down the list. So then you come to, all right, now the main group, Tristan Keys, who is committed to LSU, Sadarian Morgan, who I think will end up at Bama, Booby Feaster, who
Alabama's got a real shot there.
Shot. I mean,
it's a real shot. I wouldn't project it happening.
LSU and A&M are in there for sure. Then there's Caden Dixon-Wyatt, who we just talked about. So
he's possible. If I'm projecting today, which is dumb, it's dumb to do. That's why these recruiting guys like Bone and them that are the experts in the field, they don't like doing this because they don't like to be wrong. And if you're doing it today, the chances you are wrong are way better than you being right. So they don't like to do it. But we have less credibility here, so we'll do it. And by that I'd say I would project.
The good thing about less credibility is, when you miss, it doesn't hurt as much.
People expect us to be wrong. People don't tune in for us to be right.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, if I was projecting today, Alabama's going to sign 2 receivers, my projection today would be C.D. Morgan and the Barber kid from Spain Park.
I almost forgot him. I mean, I really did. I shouldn't, because
that's Corey Barber, who's, I think, really good. I mean, he's not a 5-star, but I mean,
he's number 2. Look, if you give me Sadarian Morgan and Corey Barber right now, I'm down, man. I am down with that. Now, if you say we get Caden Dixon-Wyatt or we get Tristan Keys or Booby Foster instead of Corey Barber, okay. But if you, I'm just telling you,
to me, it's a home run.
My floor.
It's a home run and a double. It's a home run and a double.
Yeah.
People go to the Dodgers game and Shohei Ohtani hits a home run and a double. No one goes home going, I want my money back. That was only a home run and a double. Yeah, he does better than that sometimes, but you can't expect home run after home run and then for him to pitch a shutout.
I did have somebody tell us, and really he told me, but I'm going to lump us in there since you just did it. Said, man, you don't have to give an analogy for everything. We get context. I'm like, but that's where we're Vikings. I mean, we give analogies so we understand it better. It's not necessarily for y'all. We're saying it because when Jimmy said that about Shohei Ohtani, I'm like, okay, that makes a ton of sense. But beforehand, I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. But then,
analogies. Yeah, we're exactly like Lewis and Clark.
But not that Lewis and Clark. Just 2 other dudes named Lewis and Clark.
Y'all probably exactly.
They're from Sylacauga. Anyway.
Jerry Lewis and Clark Griswold.
Oh God! If you had come up with that quicker, it would have been so much funnier.
Yeah, I know. It took me. It's going to take me a minute.
That was good.
55 years old.
Yeah, it was good. It's got to take. It takes a long time to get from your brain to your mouth. All right, Cade Carruth.
Oh yeah. Today's walk on. The walk-on spotlight.
I'll give a shout out to you. Jimmy came up with this idea about we're going to do the countdown of the roster. Let's throw the walk-on some love. They deserve it. And so hopefully he has a lot to say about Cade Carruth.
Well, I mean, here's the thing about Cade Carruth and why we're including him here. Alabama would like to have 4 quarterbacks. That's pretty much a standard number, by the way, throughout college football. When you ask any quarterback coach or offensive coordinator, how many scholarship quarterbacks you want? The most common answer you're going to get is 4. And as a matter of fact, it might almost be near universal. Well, Alabama only has 3 this upcoming fall. There's only Ty Simpson, Austin Mack, and Kalen Russell. So Cade Carruth is actually Alabama's QB4, which is normally a scholarship spot. So I think it is significant to talk about Cade, and Cade has some Alabama significance for those old enough. You might, in the Bear Bryant era, might remember famed Alabama running back Paul Ott Carruth, one of the more beloved Bear Bryant players. This is Cade is his nephew. That's his uncle. Cade was the quarterback at Hewitt-Trussville. A lot of Birmingham Alabama fans out there listen to our show. So y'all probably remember Cade from being a significant quarterback at one of the better 7A programs in the state of Alabama. So this was a significant high school player in the state. He's also played in a game, and not every walk-on, not every guy that walks on. As a matter of fact, very few walk-ons walk on at an Alabama and get to play in a game. But he actually played at the very end of the Mercer game last year. So all that hard work, he has played in a game and handed off the ball, and we might see him again. It's very conceivable this fall, especially if they decide that Kalen Russell needs to redshirt, which we haven't discussed, and I don't think is going to happen, but it could. And if so, you'll probably see Cade in a couple of garbage time situations. And God forbid you get that Ohio State injury problem. Wasn't too long ago, some school, I can't remember which one it was, Virginia, somebody in the ACC went through 6 quarterbacks in a season. 6. And Cade's just number 4.
Wasn't it Virginia Tech?
Might have been, maybe Virginia or Virginia Tech. I can't remember, because when I hear something like that, I immediately want to flush that, because I'm like, oh, no, that doesn't need to happen here. But it can. And hey, if you're down to quarterback 4, it's fair to go ahead and cancel your reservations, that you've made at the hotel for the national championship trip at the end of the year. If you're down to QB4, that all becomes unrealistic. But Cade Carruth was a 7A quarterback at Hewitt-Trussville. This is his year 3 at Alabama. We list all the walk-ons based on year. So he's listed as a junior. Technically, I guess you could say he's a redshirt sophomore. But this is a year 3 for Cade Carruth. And one fun fact to throw in before we end the discussion about Cade Carruth, he's only the 3rd most famous member of his family. His uncle is, of course, Paul Ott Carruth. His sister, Allie Leanne Carruth, is a Nashville recording artist that plays shows, that has original songs out. I think she has an album out, I know she tours around. She's been on the Feinbaum show performing. But anyway, check her out. Obviously, a lot of Alabama connections there with Allie Leanne Carruth, Cade's sister, and an emerging star in the Nashville scene.
Did you say her name is Allie Leanne Carruth?
I think it's Allie Leanne Carruth.
That is a mouthful.
That's a lot. I think it's Allie Leanne.
The most southern name you could have. I mean, my daughter's name is Mary Sanford, and she lives in Ohio, but she's coming to Bama next year, and everybody up there calls her Mary. I'm like, her name's Mary Sanford. They're like, that's too southern for up here. I'm like, well, Allie Leanne, how about that?
It's southern.
Yeah,
but Southern sells well in Nashville. I know very little about country music, but I think Southern sells well.
It does
in the country music
around these parts. Anyway, all right, that's going to do it for today's pod. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.